In a city that's constantly evolving, staying ahead of the curve isn't just a goal, it's a necessity for survival. Welcome to the Pillars of Progress podcast. I'm Travis Justice. Today we are diving deep into the engine room of our regional economy. And joining me is a man who's transitioned from the floor of the Nebraska legislature to the helm of one of the state's most storied institutions. Heath Mello is the president and CEO of the Greater Omaha Chamber of Commerce, an organization celebrating a staggering 133 years of fueling business growth. But we aren't just looking at the history books today. From the Grow the Good Life Act and the war for top-tier talent to the transformative impact of the new modern streetcar, we're discussing bold strategies meant to keep Omaha from being just another flyover city. We're talking brain drain, energy infrastructure, and why Omaha was recently ranked the #1 place to move to in America. Heath Mello, welcome to the Pillars of Progress podcast. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Glad to be with you today, Travis.
So what's going on at the Chamber these days?
Well, the Greater Omaha Chamber, we're getting ready to celebrate our 133rd birthday here on March 17th as the oldest and the largest business association in the state of Nebraska. So in that sense, we're excited to have another year under our belts in terms of helping support our members, focusing on regional economic development. And really right now, we're really knee deep in the middle of the Nebraska legislative session, has about another two weeks left of working days. And so we've got a lot of important legislative priorities to help the business community and the Greater Omaha region out to try to get across the finish line, so to speak. And really that's what we're doing right now.
I mean, you're a politician by nature, right? I mean, in the legislature, you ran for governor. Just in a high level way of people who may not understand the inner workings of the legislature, what should people be paying attention to? What would affect Omaha and the business community right now?
Well, I'll correct you real quick. Ran for mayor, not governor.
Did I say
okay.
governor?
Governor, it's okay. Though.
I meant mayor.
I just want to make it.
I meant mayor.
It's okay. Right now there's a number of key bills that really have a positive impact, possibly with the business community, involving workforce development, some opportunities involving apprenticeship programs, internship programs, things that we know are at the forefront of the future of our workforce needs as a region. But primarily, one of the biggest priorities we have is LB 1165. That's the Grow the Good Life Act, priority bill that was brought forward by the governor. We worked with him, State Senator Brad Von Gillerin, who is the chair of the Revenue Committee, to really help, I would say, refocus some of our economic development incentives in the state towards existing employers and existing companies that we know are probably more primed for growth. And part of that is that we know a number of large major employers across the state who have presences outside of Nebraska have a choice. And that choice is they can either choose to grow their company in state, or they can choose to look to expand their workforce and then move their capital investment to other metros and other states across the country. This whole proposal is trying to help those companies refocus that opportunity here in Nebraska, creates opportunities clearly for a variety of industries in terms of whether it's building new headquarters, whether it's the opportunity to relocate hundreds and hundreds of jobs from other branches or other satellite offices, but also it's the ability for us to attract people. I think, Travis, you know as much as anything else that MCL does and the work that helps elevate other companies, other organizations in the region with the amazing facilities and headquarters you build, that we know talent is part of the driving force of all of it.
I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, talent is, we're on a major growth path, right? Talent is the hardest thing to find in attracting people from out of state. We look here, we are constantly looking at how do you get people to come in from out of state? And that's the hard part.
That question alone is part of what I would say, part of the foundational aspect of this LB 1165 is that really we're trying to look now more and more to help existing companies who have opportunities to relocate those jobs, but also to help them relocate talent to the communities. I mean, that is part of it. It's one thing if a company is like, hey, I'm going to bring 500 jobs to the Greater Omaha region, but I can't fill those jobs because we don't have the talent. That may end up being a wash of maybe only 100 jobs at the end of the day because they're going to say, I can't fill those here. I'm going to have to go fill them somewhere else. The whole opportunity and goal is to say, hey, we want to help incentivize you to bring people with you as well. Yeah, we want jobs here locally for folks to be able to apply for, to be able to advance their careers. But if you're able to bring in 400 out of those 500 jobs from other places across the country, we have opportunities opportunities for other local residents to apply for those other jobs. We know the business cycle where people are going to come and go with different companies and corporations. So the reality is, once we get them into the Omaha region, we know that we have a very, very amazing community that can help these individuals find their career path, whether it's with that company or move to another company along the way.
You know, unemployment's an interesting number in Nebraska because it's always been low.
Yes.
I mean, but is it a double-edged sword? Because I've always made the joke, and I'm not being mean here, but I said if you don't have a job, you're not looking for one.
No, it is a double-edged sword, Travis. You captured the challenge that I hear from employers on a daily basis, which is, hey, we know that it's a good selling point for the Chamber of Commerce to go out and reinforce across the country that we've got a low unemployment rate, which shows that our economy is moving along and humming along well. But the reality is that the challenge is more of that actually shows that we have a struggle with our businesses being able to grow because they need talent to be able to advance their next project, advance their next strategic initiative. And there just isn't that talent pool in terms of when you're unemployment. We're typically one of the 2 or 3 lowest states in the country and have been that way for a number of years, which shows that we're essentially at full employment. And so if MCL is looking to expand and looking to grab talent, it becomes a question of like, hey, there is no one sitting on the sidelines that can meet our talent needs. So we're going to either have to go out and recruit folks to come here, which we know is very expensive in terms of companies trying to go hire and relocate folks from outside the state. Or a lot of folks have been doing what I just talked a little bit about. They're looking at just other markets. I mean, it's maybe better for us to invest in these other markets to really be able to grab the talent in these larger metro regions or states that we have some opportunities in. And so that's really the unique dynamic when we talk about talent, we talk about economic development, talk about growth, is that all three of them are intertwined with one another. And some of our economic development programming at the state level just hasn't caught up, I would say, with what other states have been doing over the last 5 to 6 years. The pandemic really slowed down some states when it came to this economic development landscape, and it sped it up for others. And right now, we're just trying to get caught up to a lot of our peers across the country.
So give me an example of that. In Heath Mello's perfect world, what would Omaha and the state of Nebraska do?
Well, I'd say the first thing is pass LB 1165, which is a really great framework for us in terms of helping incentivize companies. The other aspect that I would say is really at the forefront, and some of this work I'll highlight, was in our recent Omaha Competes report. The Chamber spent 6 months last year working with economic development practitioners, tax experts, and some of our member companies to really explore the economic development landscape of what public policy changes we needed to help incentivize and help grow companies in sectors across the metro region. And so some of those ideas that we have put forward, one being LB 1165, the Grow the Good Life Act, which changes the way our economic development incentives work. Another really focuses on our ability dealing with energy and utility infrastructure. We've got to find a way to be more innovative as a state when it comes to helping our public power districts finance some of the equipment, but arguably some of the plant materials, primarily turbines, if we're talking natural gas turbines, to be able to help them finance that in a way that allows them to be able to mitigate some risk moving forward. Because we know our energy landscape is requiring us right now to really think differently about what the future holds. And part of that, we know the only thing we can guarantee is we need a lot more energy. We're going to have to continue to produce more energy, and we're going to have to continue to produce energy of all kinds to be able to meet our growing needs in the industrial base, as well as some of the residential growth that we're seeing across the region. So really helping on the economic development side is also helping on the energy side. And it's really trying to support some of the unique financing options that our public power districts need to be able to really kind of stay 1 or 2 steps ahead of what's happening in the overall energy market. The other item I would say that really involves our ability to look at talent a little differently. The governor, I want to give the governor a lot of credit and his Department of Labor of focusing more and more on apprenticeships. That is something that I know is a big priority of the Department of Labor, of looking at apprenticeships across a variety of sectors, healthcare, transportation, particularly not just the construction industry, which predominantly is where apprenticeships have been focused on. But we really also think the opportunity with internships is paramount, that we know there's data that has been collected and shared that for a Nebraska student to be able to get 2 internships in the term of their career before they start their full career, and to be able to earn slightly more than $8,000 over the course of those 2 internships, there is a much more sizable, I think it's closer to like 75% chance that they will stay in Nebraska based on those internship experiences. Now, that's someone who's here locally. That's a local Nebraska resident. They're more familiar with our region. They're more familiar with some of our companies. The same thing goes, though, for students who are not from here, out-of-state students who are coming in, maybe at a Creighton or a UNO, a College of St. Mary, a Bellevue University, an MCC, but they need more. They need to make more money. They need to make about $21,000 to be able to, over the course of a multi-year internship, to be able to see the value of I want to stay in the metro region. So for us, it's really focusing on that talent and workforce pipeline around apprenticeships and internships, which it cuts across all industries right now. And if I could wave that magic wand, both in Omaha and the state, if we could get those 3 priorities done over the next couple of years, we'll be a much more competitive region and state.
So what you're talking about is possible brain drain, right? I mean, where people are, and don't be mad at me, I'm not a bad parent, but I have 4 kids. 3 of them live in the South. One lives in Louisiana, one lives in Mississippi, one lives in Georgia. They just got opportunities to go to college down there because it was more affordable to go to college in the South.
I've heard this, yes.
And then they're like, oh, it's really warm down here. Why? I'm not going to move back. And I can't make them move back. I want them to move back because I have a grandchild now. But, how do you avoid that brain drain?
Travis, the way you just described that is you'd be shocked the number of parents and business leaders who have very similar stories. That really we see a lot of students here in the metro region go to SEC schools, Ole Miss being one of them.
That's where my daughter works.
Alabama being another. And part of it is the cost to be able to attend an out-of-state school in the South is actually, in terms of scholarships, is more lucrative at times than it was going to in-state schools, which is a concern that clearly our university system and others, I think, are starting to take notice in terms of how they can try to turn the tide in terms of scholarships to in-state Nebraskans. But the overall brain drain dynamic, we have maybe that one opportunity, 2 things to those kind of former Nebraskans who now reside in other places to kind of go try to tell a new story to them. And that's something the Chamber started in 2025. Our Back for the Future campaign, which really was focused on connecting students who graduated from metro region high schools or graduated from a metro region university or college who live somewhere else, who are between the ages really of 30 and 40, because they're in that kind of sweet spot of their career, their life, to kind of retell the story of the Omaha Metro. Like this is a different place than it was 10 to 15 years ago, and really trying to get to them to understand there is a place for you to start your next step, your next journey here in Omaha and the Omaha region. And that was one thing that we've started to do. It's been very successful in terms of getting that messaging out, but it cuts to the deeper core of the brain drain phenomenon that we have some challenges where, candidly, we did some research that we unveiled at our annual meeting and back in early February, and it was pretty cut and dry for us. The research done by some national firms showed that we have to focus on creating good paying jobs that are kind of the second and third job for folks in their career. Like, we've got a good opportunity to get folks right out of school in that first job. But when they want to advance in their career in marketing, they want to advance their career in finance, they want to advance in their career in construction, they want to advance in their career in a variety of industries, the research showed, hey, Chamber, you and your employer members need to take a step back and start thinking about what are those job opportunities for that second and third job. Because if you're able to create an ecosystem where folks feel, hey, I may not get my second job at this bank, but I can get my second job at one of these 3 other banks and then probably advance to get my third job either there or another bank. They said, look, it's not always going to be about one company anymore. It's about the ecosystem that is driven within some of these industries. And Travis, you'll hear us talk a lot more about that the rest of this year because it truly is at a significant threat level kind of time right now for us to address this talent issue.
I think you just answered my next question because I'm going to date myself. I'm a little bit older than you, but I remember late 80s, mid 80s, early 90s, the deal was attract new businesses to have their headquarters here. Mm-hmm. So are you saying talent is the number one issue of the chamber right now?
I'd say it's tied. There's a tie always because I think that, we historically have always focused on bringing new to market companies. That's been a big priority to continue to grow the overall regional economy through new to market attraction. But I would say kind of aside from that, really a lot of our focus has been helping existing employers expand and really what opportunities that they need from us and from other partners in the community to grow theirs, to grow their operations, to grow their investment, to grow their workforce. Because we know other states and other metros are coming to try to recruit them as well. And I think that's the dynamic of competitiveness that I think over the last year, we really took a very focused look at what other people are doing. And we know folks are coming after our companies. They want our companies to leave Metro Omaha and go to their state or their metro. And so we've got to be focusing on protecting our own base while we're out trying to recruit new companies. But talent has clearly risen, I would say, to that similar level, which is you need a good job first to attract people or to keep people. And that's a fundamental thing. But arguably, we also need to recruit people. It's just a pure numbers issue for us, which is if we're not able to grow our population faster, we're not going to be able to grow the economy at the level we need to. And so talent has taken a considerable focus, primarily, I would say, high school students who are moving into careers or are looking to go to college, and then those who are graduating with some kind of certificate, some kind of diploma, some kind of degree, to help them see themselves that this is a place you can advance, not just for one job, as I say, but you can advance your career multiple jobs along the way. And it's going to require a concerted effort from the whole community. It's not just going to be the chamber. It's going to be elected officials. It's going to be businesses. It's you, it's MCL, it's other people out telling that story, which is, hey, there's more opportunity than you realize. But if there's not opportunity, we need to know about so we can start to create that along the way.
All right, be a salesman for me because let's say we have a prospective employee watching this right now who's from out of state. What would you tell them to come to Omaha?
Aside from Omaha being the number one place to move to by Forbes magazine, which highlighted every possible aspect you would look for in terms of why you would want to move to a community, the economy, public safety, education, housing, transportation. I think the biggest thing that we kind of try to highlight over and over again is that you have an unparalleled quality of life that also matches what we would say unparalleled educational opportunities for your family, for your children. And we've got world-class employers that candidly are on the upswing. That's not always the case with some major metros that we see as our competitors and our peers, that we've seen more and more of our companies be able to grow in a strategic fashion, which creates additional opportunities, particularly in some emerging sectors that tie into a lot of our prime industries. Emerging sectors like fintech, insurtech, ag tech, drone technology, health technology. A lot of sectors that are outshoots, I would say, of a lot of our major industries that Nebraska and particularly Omaha is known for. This is truly a land of opportunity that you're not going to see anywhere else in terms of the job opportunities. But as I've said before, it really comes down to our biggest sell still is a quality of life that you can't find anywhere else. And that's something that we've got to be able to marry both of those together, and we try to do our best.
See, if you're thinking about coming to work here, what he just said, that's all the selling point we have. Of course, you're looking to help companies grow, but I'm sure you have members that say, hey, what are you doing for me? Mm-hmm. I'm sure you've heard this. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of them on Farnham and the streetcar. But true, I owned a small business. I owned a small coffee shop from 2006, 2010. When they did work on Saddle Creek, it devastated me, right?
Yeah.
How do you take care of those businesses that are being affected impacted by the construction of the streetcar?
So I should have mentioned earlier, too, in sense of why folks would want to consider here. We're going to have an amazing streetcar, modern streetcar that's going to be done, that's going to carry you through the urban core, as well as a new airport renovation that's still in the works now that helps you get anywhere in the United States, probably one of the fastest airports in the country. The streetcar project right now, I would say I'd share a couple things. One, the chamber we did, thanks to the support of some private donors last year, we provided over $1 million to small businesses that were impacted by the streetcar construction. We know it wasn't arguably going to solve everyone's problems, but we felt that was what we could do at the time in terms of working with some generous donors who saw the need in terms of what we could do to help provide a little financial support to help businesses start to build that transition and bridge that work between streetcar construction and when the construction will be out of their respective commercial corridor. Clearly, I think that there's an issue that we're still trying to explore, Travis, in the sense of what else can we do in terms of trying to find other donors who may be willing to support that effort. We've also have some things in the work in terms of how we're able to drive more of our chamber members back to the urban core in terms of being able to visit and patronize some of the businesses that we know right now are looking for folks, looking for their customers, looking for new customers to come in, to have a bite to eat, to have a drink, to go purchase something. And so that's something that our team's working on with chamber members in the downtown, midtown. Okay. Urban core area to start seeing what we can do to elevate that hey, you can get down here. There's places to park. There's traffic maps that I know that are being worked on to help people find their place maybe a little bit better around the urban core. But really, as I've said, look, folks are able to make their way down to a Creighton game, roughly about 20,000 folks for a lot of Creighton games. And so if we're able to get people down to downtown Omaha for a Creighton game, we should be able to continue to get people on a regular basis to visit these businesses along the streetcar route that we know will ultimately pay considerable dividends in terms of the impact it'll have on their business based on every other city who's had a streetcar similar to this in an urban core downtown center. The growth, the business opportunities, the revenue, it speaks for themselves in all of these other communities. And we really look to Kansas City as really the best case study in terms of what they've done. They've seen so much success that's similar to kind of what we're trying to do, that they expanded it. They expanded their streetcar, did a whole nother route very, very quickly. And they just recently opened that up this last fall. So I think if anything, I would encourage all of your listeners, I'd encourage everyone, every time I can be around a group, I reinforce to folks, look, go visit local businesses, buy local, there's plenty of great restaurants, plenty of great bars, plenty of great, shops, boutique shops along the way that you can go visit. And I think if anything, the more and more we share that reiteration to not just downtown businesses or midtown businesses, but the whole community, I think it will be beneficial to all those businesses.
If you want a streetcar example, just run that thing to the airport.
Long term, hey, Travis, long term, you are. I would tell you that the number of times I hear from folks, particularly folks who are not folks that aren't from Omaha, when they hear we're having a streetcar and they're like, "Hey, it would be great if you had this connect to your airport." So, it is something that's very regular, and believe me, I know the city is already looking at what possible next routes could be based on when they're done with this first route.
So, you've been doing this job about 2.5 years. Mm-hmm. What have you learned?
Oh, you and I could spend hours talking about that, Travis. I'd say a couple things right out of the gate. That we have a lot of passionate entrepreneurs and a lot of passionate people who work in a variety of businesses and organizations who care not just about their company, but they generally care about Omaha and the success of Omaha, which I think is something that we don't always acknowledge maybe enough. I'm a believer, we don't give enough awards out to people. We don't give enough recognition out to people because there are a lot of people who do a lot of things to support other businesses, partners that they work with in the business community. And that's something I just have really come to appreciate, that there's a lot of passion to support Omaha and the success of the Omaha region from businesses and business leaders and business, entrepreneurs. The second thing I'd probably have learned is that that we have a unique story that sometimes we don't probably tell enough, but also while using that word unique story, it's probably time we have to take a step back and start thinking about the future a little differently. You asked me that question earlier. We historically have always highlighted our quality of life as like why people would want to come to Omaha. I mean, we're a 25-minute city that you can get anywhere in a 2-county region. We've got great, some of the most affordable housing in the country. We were the hottest housing market last year in terms of the entire country, in terms of what was available and what was affordable and what was going quickly on the market. But I think that story is like, we just haven't been able to nail that story to a level, which really resonates with folks. And I think, we had some research that we shared at our annual meeting that showed, the Omaha area, when people did a perception survey of what they thought of Omaha, we were literally right down the middle of 5 out of 1 to 10 in terms of a variety of attributes. So people didn't have anything negative to say about Omaha, but no one had anything super positive to say about Omaha. And so they're like, we've never seen research like this where a community came back and you were literally straight vanilla right down the middle.
Almost a chameleon.
Like there was no, and so they said, if anything, you have such a tremendous opportunity to be able to go out and go tell an entirely new story because no one has anything negative or great to say about you guys. And I think that is something that, as someone who's from Omaha, someone who's spent a lot of my life here, I spent a little time in Lincoln. It's just kind of a unique dynamic where I would have thought we had a fairly baked in image in terms of what people think. And they said, look, you've got the ability to go write an entirely new book about what you want, about your city, about your region. And I think that's really exciting because it's exciting for storytellers from the region to go out, tell that story, businesses that are clearly advancing not just their goals, but they're heavily engaged with the community and in a variety of nonprofits and education institutions to help them advance their goals as well. So I think for me, that was perhaps the other big thing was just that opportunity to start to tell a new story is really exciting at this point in time.
So, well, I was going to say, you ran for mayor, you're in the legislature. Do you feel you make a bigger impact as the president chamber than you did an elected official?
That's a great question. I
come up with one every now and then.
That is a really good one. I don't,
You're sweating the brow now.
I'm sweating the brow a little bit. No, I would say, I have such an immense respect for people who choose public service because it is a tremendous responsibility, but it's also a tremendous sacrifice in terms of putting yourself out there, your family out there, your kids out there, your whole career, everything about you becomes super public. And more times than not, you have people who are coming up to you with complaints and concerns than people who come up to you and say, "Hey, you did a great job." You get 10 times more of the negative feedback than the positive feedback. And so I always think about this from that lens, which is, thank goodness we've got people willing to go serve the public, despite sometimes against all the odds. And they have the ability to make a significant impact. They do. A host of opportunities, whether you're in the legislature, whether you're on the city council, whether you're a mayor, whether you're a congressman, a governor, U.S. senator. But as I've kind of shared, look, I'm afforded this tremendous honor to be the only president and CEO of the Greater Omaha Chamber. So I have this responsibility to nearly 3,000 members to support them, to help them with their goals in terms of their business growth and their business needs. And then the other side of it is truly to be able to help serve in that unique community role where it's not, I always tell people, I don't have agency to go cast a vote or to appropriate money like I was as a senator, or I could direct people in public works or other, or the police department like I would if you were mayor. But I have the ability at the end of the day to help bring people together, to help be a convener, to be a facilitator for some of the biggest challenges that face our city and our region. And some of that is involving economic development, that involves public policy, workforce talent, transportation, you name it. And so it's a different level of impact, Travis, I'd say. I think it's something that I'm sometimes in awe at the end of the day that I'm able to serve in this role in terms of being able to provide the support we do and be able to work with the people I get to work with. And I think it's just more of the individual person makes the impact in terms of what they feel that they're able to do their best in. And sometimes public service, people are really, really good at public service. As the chamber president CEO, my goal is when I'm done with this role, hopefully folks will look back and say I was able to make an impact, in the sense of being able to achieve some of the goals we want, not just as an organization, not just our members, but the community overall.
And I think you're lucky as a chamber member, or even elected official, in that is Omaha and Nebraska is very philanthropic, meaning the public-private relationships that are built in this state are phenomenal compared to a lot of different places. It
is. I was actually with some Metro City Chamber CEOs a couple weeks ago in Washington, D.C., and had this conversation where we're fortunate that Omaha has more millionaires per capita than any other city in the United States. And because of that, we've been able to see a tremendous amount of philanthropy and philanthropic philosophy, I would say, coming from our business community and our private sector leaders over the years, which has created tremendous community projects, have created tremendous public benefit for residents of not just Omaha, but residents of the whole region. And I think that is something, as we start to look to the future, I think the future of kind of the public-private partnership model that Omaha has been so good at developing and so good at building, I think that's something that I would say we have that opportunity to look at this differently, in the sense of there's going to need to be, with so much philanthropic giving that will likely continue to happen over the next 10 to 20 years, of how we as a region are able to capitalize on that in terms of alignment with our public sector funding, as well as our alignment with our private sector funding. I mean, companies, by no stretch of the imagination, do we just let things happen with philanthropy in the public sector. The private sector has historically been great partners in these public-private partnerships to really ensure that major projects happen the way they're supposed to happen. When we're building something, we're building it with intentionality in mind, that we're making sure things are transparent, things are on budget. That MCL's been involved with some of these partnerships. I mean, it's vital for us at the end of the day to continue to do that, but then think, how can we do it differently in a world of AI? How can we do it in a world where we know we're trying to think about infrastructure or thinking about programs or concepts that need to live in the next 30 to 50 years in a different light than the past 30 to 50 years. And so I'm excited about that. I was sharing this with some CEOs, and they were kind of like, we had no clue Omaha had that kind of philanthropy and that kind of business engagement where all three of your sectors really work well together. And I've said that's kind of been our special sauce for the last 30 years. But we're at a really unique turning point where we've got some tremendous opportunities to look at some big ideas. And hopefully we can get ahead of the curve with some of the big disruptions happening. Yeah, it's just unique. And, I was talking to Dave Roth at the airport, and it's just, if people only knew the fact that the airport run independently, that's actually a good thing. Yes. If you compare it to municipalities that run airports, they're not as efficient as Omaha. Well, Heath, I tell you what, I promised you it'd take about a half hour. We're at a half hour. All right. You've done a million interviews. I hope you enjoyed this one, and thanks for being our guest. I appreciate it. Thanks, Travis. Thank you. Wonderful. All right, we'll do it again. Yep.